I want to tell you guys, thanks for coming to this talk, but I also want to tell you thank you on behalf of our team. Because right now, you're the part of First Pres that I can say thank you to. I don't know if you've ever been in a place where you're a minority. I don't know if you've ever been in a place where you're not going to speak the first language that you speak. I live in a place like that right now. I can tell you that it's super important to know that people are praying for you. Maybe your mom or your dad or both pray for you and they say, hey Anthony, how's school going? How you doing? You're having an exam, I'm praying for you. If you hear that from your folks, don't let it just slip by. Stop and take a moment and recognize it's a huge blessing to have someone praying for you. So I'll say to you guys, on behalf of my team, on behalf of the 5 families, 20-something people that are living in Peru in the extension of First Presbyterian Church. Thank you. We said that to you guys as of you came to visit us last summer, and we mean it. My biggest job. Good to see you. I'm glad to be here. My biggest job in representing my team here is not giving a talk. My biggest job is to look at you guys and tell you thank you. And I have a lot of information to share, so I want you to understand that it's more important for me to come here and say thank you to you guys. I'm doing that now. Healthcare as a missionary, perspective from Peru. It's kind of what the name of my talk is. When I got here, they gave me this because I'm a missionary, right? So I'm going to read the theme verse of this conference to you all. Maybe you've read it. It was not going to be part of my talk, but I got here and I thought, wow, we need to hear that together. It's from 1 Peter 2:9, and it says this: you're a chosen people, royal priesthood, holy nation, a people belonging to God. Why? That you may declare the praises of Him who called you out of darkness into His wonderful light. Why are we a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people belonging to God? I was having this talk with my kids in family worship about 3.5 weeks ago. Didn't know it was the theme of this conference. We were just talking about it as a family because it's our life right now. It's our life all the time. Why do we do that? So we can dance together and just enjoy. No. What are we doing? So that we can declare the praises of Him who called you out of darkness into His wonderful light. There are going to be very few take-home points from this lecture, talk, discussion. But if you don't remember anything else, this is what I want you to remember. If you're a Christian, you're a missionary. If you are a Christian, raise your hand if you're a Christian. If you feel like it. You know what? If you're a Christian, you're a missionary. You may suck at it, but you are, in fact, a missionary. Okay? So that being said, we have to do one of two things. Either you guys will have to put a badge on, or I have to take mine off. I'm going to take mine off. Okay? We're missionaries. You guys are missionaries, and I am a missionary as well. I'm a missionary that right now lives in Peru. You guys are missionaries that live wherever you live. Walton Way, North Augusta. Where's Berry College? I was going to say Berry College, but that's stupid. Rome, Georgia. But you're missionaries. And I want you to understand that, okay? How do the praises that we're declaring sound? You know, I have 5 kids. One of them is just there with the soccer club. I have 5 kids. And wherever they go, do you know what they are? They're Wilsons. And that means that whatever good they do, and whatever dumb stuff they do, guess who it reflects on? Me, my wife Audrey. They are declaring constantly who my family is. Sometimes they do it well, sometimes they don't. And sometimes I do it well, and sometimes I don't. But I'm always a Wilson. If you're a Christian sitting here listening to me today, guess what? You're a missionary. Don't forget that. If you are in nursing school, if you are an accountant, if you are in line at Cracker buying whatever, you know, the generic escape, I can't think anymore, a Sprite and a bag of Doritos, you are a missionary. You can't stop being a missionary. You can choose to be a bad one, but you may not stop. You can't just check that, right? My kids cannot say, I'm not a Wilson right now. And that's something I want you guys to understand. And I want you to take that away from this conference and this thought that we're missionaries. If you are marked as a Christian, you're a missionary. I talked to the kids last night. I talked to them about the difference between a good missionary and a bad missionary. And there's the crux, right? I tell my oldest children all the time, you're leading your brothers and your sister. You're leading well or you're leading poorly, but you are always leading. As parents, we're always leading our children. Dr. Scarborough here just has another eternal being coming to his house that he will forever be leading. Poorly at times, well most of the time, because Charles is that kind of daddy. But we're always leading. And as a missionary, you're like that, guys. We're always communicating something, what Peter terms here, the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his wonderful light. That's the opportunity that we have. Sometimes what I'm saying about that is true. There are times living in Peru, driving in Peru, driving in Peru, there are times when people look at me and they go, what's this guy saying about his God? But I'm saying something all the time, and you are too. No matter what you're doing, you are always making commentary about this great God that you belong to if you're a Christian. Okay? So I want you guys to understand that. If you are a Christian, you are, in fact, missionary. What's the difference between a good and a bad missionary? What I told those kids last night is a good missionary has to love God, love people, and be ready. To me, that's a reasonable boil down for anybody, really. For a 5 to 11-year-old age group, you have to love Jesus, you have to love people, and you have to be ready. And any two of those without the other one, you're not a good missionary. You're a poor missionary. Okay? So I want you guys to understand that. Alright, so who are we? Like, what happened? How do we get to Peru? Gosh, they're good looking kids, aren't they? They look like their mom. How do we get to Peru? You know, who's our team? A lot of you guys were not in the city when I left, when our team left. We left here in 2010, in August, to go to language school. We went to language school in Costa Rica for a year, and then we came back for a couple of weeks, and then we moved to Peru, Cusco, Peru, in September 2011. So we're 5 families, and you'll see them occasionally rotating through here. We're 5 families living there, and our 5 families, before we moved there, came together and we worked in the campus ministry here called Medical Campus Outreach. A lot of you guys may be involved with that, perhaps all of you. We worked here for a long time in that, and we all said together, why don't we go try to do this somewhere else? That seemed like fun. Let's do that. The next talk that I helped with Clark Newton, I want to talk a little bit about how do you decide, you know, what do you want to do if we're all missionaries, where are you going to work as a missionary? That's kind of our next talk. Well, we're 5 families. There's an ophthalmologist in our group. There's 2 physical therapists. I'm a pediatrician. There's an orthodontist. There's a nurse. There's a nurse practitioner. There's a physician's assistant. We're medical, healthcare oriented people. And so we moved down there. But we moved down there with a mission. How cliche. You're missionaries, you have a mission. We moved down there with a mission that was evangelize. What does that mean? That means love Jesus and love people. Tell people about the Jesus that we love. Right? Evangelize, disciple, and train Peruvian healthcare students to use their occupation to share the love of Christ and the hope of Christ with their patients. In other words, we went down there to plan an MCO, to plan a medical campus outreach. And if you guys are involved in medical campus outreach, but you've never thought about it, guess what medical campus outreach does? It says to you, you're a missionary. Where do you want to work as a missionary? Wherever you work, Augusta Pediatric Associates, Southern Family Pediatrics. No, give it to me, Charles. Southern Family Medical Center as a pediatrician. New Wing, that's not my fault. I've been where he works, I know what it is. MCG as a student, MCG as an instructor, Jiffy Lube, wherever. MCO says, sometimes blatantly, sometimes overtly, you're a missionary. How are you going to work? Where are you going to work? Okay? So we went down there trying to plant the same model. That was what we all call mission critical. Doesn't that sound like Tom Cruise? And, mission critical. That was our thing. And then our secondary mission was to minister the gospel of Jesus to the poor for health care. I'm a pediatrician. And Clark and I, again, will talk about this, but my model, the way I know Jesus best, the way I share about Jesus best, is in my clinic. And the idea was in my clinic, talking to a poor person about Jesus, talking to a rich person about Jesus, but with a student by my side going, okay, I got it. See that? Some of you have been students with me, some of you have been residents with me over the years. I've been a student and a resident with others. But that's what we went to do, guys. And so we moved together. How did you grab this? So we moved together to Peru. This is John Massey's man bag, guys. Who knows John Massey? You might know John Massey. He's obviously stronger than me because this man bag weighs a lot. We moved down there with a job to do. Okay? Now I want you guys to understand something. I grew up in Waycross, Georgia. Raise your hand if you know where that is. Okefenokee Swamp. Who's been in the Okefenokee Swamp? Yes. I'm sorry. So all I can say is, no doubt you're left disappointed. There are a few alligators, but what's the big deal? We're right down here on the bus. But I grew up in Waycross. And I grew up in Waycross with really amazing parents. My daddy, Jerry is his name, was a machinist for the railroad for 40 years in Waycross. And he knows how to fix anything. I mean, that was his job. He'd bring trains in and just go, something's wrong with this, can you fix that? And he would be like, yeah. My dad has a pack house, a building we call a pack house. And the pack house is basically a structure held together by all the tools that it contains. I mean, it is a shack, but because it contains so many tools, it somehow just, I don't know, I used to have a car like that. I would never wash it because I knew if I washed it, something else would break. I don't know if you guys have ever had a car like that. But my daddy's pack house, I used to love as a kid because I would go down there. My dad worked at the railroad, but on the side, I mean, he built tractors, he rebuilt rotary mowers, and gosh, he could do anything. He built our house, he built other people's houses. But you know what my daddy has? He has an amazing quantity of tools in his pack house. And when I went to college, University of Georgia, good dog, should won national championship. My daddy took me down to the pack house and he said, you know what he said to me? He said, buddy, he always calls me buddy, you're going to need some tools. And I said, yes I am, there's no doubt I'm going to need tools, Daddy. And he said, let's get you a tool bag. Let's pack you a bag full of tools. And I said, yes sir, that sounds great, I love tools. What tools do I need? Now that's an important question, and I'm going to relate that in to our mom. There's our ophthalmologist. What tools do you need? What do you think I said back to him? What do you think I said back to my daddy? What tools do you have? What do you think I need? Right? So we packed a tool bag, and he put some things in that bag that I knew what they were. But I'll tell you this, he put tools in my bag I've never seen before. And remember, I lived with a daddy with a pack house full of tools my entire, what's that, childhood. And he put stuff in my bag, and I was like, am I going to need that? What is that? And he goes, you may need that. And he would call a name, and I'd be like, okay, that's a, whatever it was, Allen wrench, whatever. So, the point is this, guys. When we left to go to Peru, we had to do an inventory as missionaries. And that inventory was, what tools do we have? What tools do we need? Okay? You with me? Yeah, tool connection. I brought this from the Massey house. I'm hoping that afterwards you're going to be like, a tool bag? You with me? You follow me in the tool connection? Who's with me? Understand the connection, right? Okay, good. Gosh, the leg that thing around. Almost weigh 6 kilos, 7 kilos. Heavy. So this is what we did. We said this. Alright. We have community. We have community. That's going to come in handy, no doubt. Right? We're healthcare professionals. That's a tool. It's going to come in handy. Right? Let's see. Let me grab chisel. Why not? Alright. We have years of experience doing MCO in Augusta or another place. Super important. Right? And we have a clinic. Let's go a little level with it. Let me get that bubble in there. We have a clinic waiting for us. That's going to be a tool at some point, probably, that we may need. We have experience. Having students in our office here, working with students. Charles Scarborough worked with me in my office one time. Sheena worked with me. Wrote a soup. I still have that paper you wrote for me. It makes me cry if I read it. I just want you to know that. We have experience working with students in a clinical context. That's going to be important, right? So let's take that. Right here. We're good looking. We have lots of kids. And this is my favorite. When we speak the language. You know, we went to Costa Rica. Charles is laughing. Charles lived in Peru with his wife Juanita for 15 years. How long are you? Yeah. When we speak the language, I just came back from Costa Rica, and you know what? People said to me, "Are you fluent in Spanish?" Yeah. So we speak the language. So that's going to be, what do we pick? Metro. Yes. I speak Spanish. That's going to be important. So we'll take that as well. You guys don't let me leave him in these schools because I'm sleeping at the masses. Things are really strong. And we had to make some assumptions, guys, to identify these schools. Just as when I went off to UGA, and just as when I moved to Augusta, and you know what? My daddy packed me a tool bag when I moved to Peru, a real life tool bag, and I use it, and I have it. But we had to make some assumptions, and those assumptions were, what job are you going to do? What are you going to find there? You know? Are the screws flatheads? I hope so, because that's the kind of screwdriver I recall. Maybe they're Phillips. Maybe they have some other crazy animal shape screws. Who knows? You know, you have to make these assumptions, right? So we had to do that. One assumption we had to make was that the MCO model would translate cross-culturally. Makes sense, right? There's students there, there's students here, they want to be doctors, you guys want to be wherever you want to be. Should work. Gotta believe it. And you swing your hammer, then once you go in. It should work, right? Should work. Another assumption we had to make was that the students would want to be with us. You know, one thing that I always found in Augusta, going into a first year class of medical students for the first time is this. They may not like my accent, being from South Georgia. They may not like the fact that I was already a dad. They may not like my taste in music, but if they did, there's something wrong. But they would always appreciate the fact that a physician wanted to be in their life. That never failed here. That never failed once here. I could go up and introduce myself to those things you guys, I guess, still do in the fall. And I would say, hey, I'm Nathan Wilson, I'm a pediatrician. And they would go, all right, can I talk to you? Can we, you know, and I was a student here at MCG. And there was this relationship that was kind of instantaneous, this credibility that was instantaneous because I was a physician here in the community. And that was a really super valuable tool here. Okay? So we had to make the assumption that it would be the same. I wrote, a desire to achieve as a professional, talking about the students, would overcome cultural fears, biases, and differences. So yes, I'm going to be a freakishly tall white guy, but I'm still a doctor, and we assume that would count for enough that they would approach a freakishly tall white guy. We assumed that our community would be protected against the trials and difficulties of living as a minority and would be attracted to the students and non-believers. Okay, so what happened? So what happened? We got there, we left, you know, we kind of threw all the stuff in our tool bag. We said, all right, we're going to put all the stuff, it's worth the weight, the luggage, we're going to pack our tool bag up. And we're going to go to Peru, it's a long trip, the kids cried, you know how that goes. But we got there, and a few things happened. encountered the environment. And we looked at that environment, and we looked at our tool bag, and we go, well, that's surprising. Or, gosh, I'm glad I brought that. And I'm going to give you guys a few examples of that. But I want you to hear me say this as a summary statement and as a take-home point. You have tools. Each of you have tools. Whatever your life is, whatever you do. And they're tools that God's given you. And sometimes you don't even know it's a tool. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you a couple of examples. But I want you to understand this. You are a missionary. And that can seem daunting. But you're a missionary and you have tools. And you are equipped with those tools by a daddy that has an inexhaustible supply of tools. Even more tools than my daddy, which is hard to believe. My mama sometimes she's like, you really need 40 inches? I mean, the same size, and my dad's like, well, yeah, I mean, it was a good deal, you know. It's that kind of deal. But you guys and I have a daddy. And he has told us that he has prepared for us in advance good works. What does that mean? That means that he's always going to give us the tools that we need to do the job. It doesn't matter what the job is. It's an amazing thing about having a daddy that has all the tools you can imagine and knows what the job is. He makes the job. Do you understand me? Like, our Father, our God, prepares in advance the job that he wants us to do. Which implies that he knows exactly what tools it's going to take. Isn't that right? You guys nod your head. You understand me? That's an amazing, amazing concept. Do I need to be afraid to get on the ground in Cusco or in Augusta this weekend or anywhere else that Lon can fly me and get there and not have the right tools? Not if I know who my daddy is. My daddy has packed my bag. My daddy's packed my bag. Your father has packed your bag. He's packed the tool bag. So I want you to remember that, guys. You have everything that you need for the job. You're going to have everything that you need for whatever job God prepared for you. So what happened, practically speaking, reality? That's a strong word, isn't it? Sorry, I'm going to say on my fancy thing. God, I'm going to have my head, isn't it? Too bad. Okay. So we got to Cusco. Cusco's third world. You know, we expected that. I mean, there's sheep and there's all, sheep and chickens and you can be in the middle of the city. People have these yards sometimes that are closed off by gates. And you can be walking downtown and there's this gate there, and it's like a fancy building, and the gate opens and you see chickens in there and like sheep, and you're like, what's going on here? So Cusco's third world. The cultural differences can be difficult. A couple of those would be, for example, being on time. That's a cultural norm in our North America. I don't know if you guys all follow that anymore, but it's a cultural norm to be on time. It is a cultural norm to be late. And not only to be late, to be ridiculously late. What we would consider like offensively late in Latin America. Would you say, you'd say Latin America, wouldn't you, Charles? Oh, not just in Cusco. But you know what? That hit me in the nose. when I'm trying to get a cell phone, when I'm trying to get furniture ordered and delivered to my house, when I'm trying to do anything that means meeting a goal at a certain time. That was difficult. There's a total lack of capitalism. The idea of capitalism is a foreign idea. And you think, well, gosh, what does that have to do with anything? Think about this. You want a piece of furniture, and you want to deliver it on time, 2 weeks, whatever it is the time is. And in 3 weeks, you call and you say, where's my furniture? And they say, well, it'll be there tomorrow. And I say, okay, well, what if I give you a tip to get it here tomorrow? That's a capitalistic idea. I will reward you for good service. I will reward you for doing your job. You know what they say? Yeah, I'll give it to you tomorrow. It doesn't matter. And that, it's difficult unless you've lived in a place where capitalism does not drive. But what it implies is customer service doesn't exist. The customer doesn't have any, there's no leverage. So that's a cultural difficulty, especially for a North American. There's a lack of moral foundation. You know, I was with my brother in Macon, and a couple of days ago, we were riding around in this fancy car, and we ride through this spot in Macon, and there were 5 police cars, obviously doing like some sort of drug bust deal or whatever on this. It was kind of shady, but there are 5 police cars. And we kind of slow down. He's like, oh, I wonder if they're checking the insurance. And then we realize, no, this is about that. So we ride through, and it hit me, and I said to him, it's an amazing thing to roll through a bunch of police cars and not start feeling anxious that you're about to be asked for a bribe, or you're about to be asked for documents you don't have so that you have to pay a fine that you shouldn't have to pay. There is a lack of there's a lack of cultural morality where we live. It really is a product of the age of that culture and just sin, you know. But that hits you as a foreigner, so we found that as well. Students. So we walk in, we start meeting students. You know, I actually, we finagled it so we could go. I could sit in on a class of first-year medical students. Raise your hand if you're a medical student. Okay. Or have been a medical student in the past. Sweetheart. Okay. So I sat in on a class with these medical students, and I walk into class, and I'm like, these kids are prepubescent. Like, how in the world are they? I mean, I'm sitting there, and I'm like, gosh, these kids look young. So I started talking to my neighbors, and they're all just like, there's a white guy in this class. You know, like a tall white guy in our class, and he has a beard. And I go, how old, you know, I was like, Nathan, how old are you? I'm 16. You're a medical student? Yeah. These kids are 16, 17, 18 years old. Well, medical students on the average year start at 22. That's a big life difference, guys. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about the life differences, but the students were different. I walked in speaking Spanish, and it turns out the different Spanish-speaking countries speak Spanish different ways. Who knew? So it took a while to understand them, and for them to understand. Sometimes they still don't understand me, and that was a difference. There's a big cultural difference between what I call a performance-based culture and a relationship-based culture. And we live in a performance-based culture. An example of that would be going to buy materials to replace your sink. Let's say. If you do that here, you walk into a Lowe's or Home Depot or whatever, and you go to an aisle, and no one has to help you. You know where it is. You go check out Sometimes you can even go to like the self-checkout and scan the card. You can do that without talking to a person, to a live human being. You go to one place, you do it, it's fast, you get back to your house, you do your job. Where I live, I need to go to sometimes 3 or 4 different stores because one store doesn't have all the cards. And every time you have to interact with a person. And that, gosh, that just made me mad for a while until I realized they do this on purpose. And they do it on purpose so they know each other. Because every person you walk into their store, it's another relationship. And they like that. And I like it more than I did a year and a half ago. I'm learning to like it. I think it's a beautiful thing about the Latino culture. But boy, it's like working in ribs when I first got there. And there were some pleasant surprises, etc., that we found when we got there. It's very beautiful where we live. From a weather perspective, it's kind of eternal spring. The food is very good. It's been crazy being back here trying to eat what I used to eat here. I'm just like, where's the rice and potatoes, baby? We had something crazy. The communities of people have been a very pleasant surprise for us, whether that's building a clinic and working there and taking care of people, whether that's the community of students that we have in our homes all the time now that are starting to come into our clinic and shadow us. The church has been a very pleasant surprise. We didn't know if we'd be able to find a church there where we could worship. And certainly, it's not this, obviously, but there's a body of believers there. And we can worship with them. And my kids playing soccer in the last 4 or 6 months have given us a community, other families, giving my kids a community with other Peruvian kids. And those things have been important. So, the point is this. We got there, we had this tool bag, right? And I thought I packed the tool bag. Which is an arrogant thing to believe. I thought I packed my own tool bag. And so when I got there, since we've been there, we've had these moments of feeling like, I can't do this. I don't have what it takes to do this. Obviously. And then the hole's this shape, and I have this, it won't work, I keep scraping my knuckles. I don't have what it takes to do that. I don't know if you guys ever feel that way. I don't have what it takes to do this. Why did God make me do this? But you know what? The longer we're there, the longer we keep looking at this tool bag, and we go, you know what? Look at that. That's what I need right there. That's what this job in Peru needed. Now, is this a tool? Is it? Is this a tool? What do you think? Is this a tool? Yes. What do you say? Yes or no? 50-50 chance. Is this a tool? Yes. It can be. And at times it may be the best tool. It depends on what the job is, doesn't it, guys? But you know what? I left here going, this is not a tool, this is a part of my tool bag. But you know what? The God who prepared the job in Cusco, Peru for me to do, that's what He knew. He knew this would be my tool. You know what the example is of this? I was trying to think of a good way to express this. You know what this is? This is English. practically speaking, in Cusco, Peru. Do you know how many thousands of dollars I spent trying to learn Spanish, guys? Living in Costa Rica, going to the Language Institute, studying I have spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars trying to learn Spanish. And you know what? I get there, and you know what these kids want us to practice with me? Can you believe that? I mean, you know, I've got this bag. Look at these tools. John Massey has a cool man bag. Look at these tools. Look at how many hundreds of dollars of tools are in this bag. You know what I'm saying? And do you know why? Because God's good to me, guys. And He knows that if I pack this bag, and I think that this hammer is the most important thing that I'm going to use, and it is, it's dangerous for me. You know why? Because it makes me prideful. And it makes me look at you guys today and say, I'll tell you how to pack your bag. Because I'm an expert in bag packing. And tool bag packing. God's still good to us for that, guys. He gives us what we need. But He decides as well. And that's a beautiful thing. These kids have they wanted to speak English with me and my family, and they come into my home. Not because I'm a doctor. They don't care that I'm a doctor. They will at some point. And that's another important point. You know what? When I got there, this screwdriver, I could not find a screw that was a, whatever that is, 2mm flathead. I couldn't find one of these. And I was very tempted to look at this and go, I bought that tool, but I don't need it. Don't do that. That's a very, very foolish thing to do. You know what? In another 2 years, when these young students who right now are learning and Quechua and stuff that has very little to do with what I consider medicine. In 2 more years, you know what they're going to be taking? Anatomy, physiology, microbiology, pharmacology, all my ologies. Who fills me with the ologies? You know what? This tool is going to work for me at some point. And it's a foolish person who would discard this, and I've been that foolish person, guys. Who doesn't guard that or keep it for a later time. We have tools that we don't know are tools. English speaking, for example. We have things that we thought were tools that really don't matter to God. He's not even going to choose to use them in that context. And we have tools, guys, that are going to be important, but right now are not. And I want to get us to know that. Okay? Who controls all of that? Your daddy. You packed your tool pack. Who designed the job? Who sent you to the job, has you in right now, today, at 10:24 in the morning, has you in the job where He has you. He knows. And so we can rest in that. And not worry. You know that before I became a Christian, I became a Christian in the first semester of medical school here in West Georgia. And you know that 13, 14, almost 14 years later, I still remember the fear and the anxiety that I had before I was a Christian. I'm so glad that I don't have to worry about that anymore. I'm so glad, guys, that I'm not seized by fear and anxiety anymore. I want to tell you one story and then I'll be done. Let me just make sure I've covered all my big bold points. Don't throw away your tools. Check. Have your tool. You have tools that you don't even use. Okay, check. Okay, we're on pace. There's a kid named Willie. And Willie, 17, starting his second year of medical school. I've known Willie since that class. He was the first kid that spoke to me. And he spoke to me because I was white and I knew how to speak English and wanted to practice English. Braces. He's in one of these pictures. Super nerdy looking kid. But Willie is a postmodern thinker, which is rare in Cusco, to be honest with you. Like, he reads Nietzsche and he reads like he's read all the socialist writers. He reads, which is rare as far as that sort of reading. And I've been sharing the gospel with Willie now for a year. My house, my clinic, classroom. And Willie doesn't know Jesus. I trust that one day he will. Willie called me up one day and he said, Nathan, have you ever played Risk, World Conquest game? You guys know what Risk is? Raise your hand. Risk, World Domination. So apparently they have this new version now, which is like, it's different. I like it. So he said, hey, I have Risk. Do you guys want to play? And I said, sure, Willie, bring it over. Let's play. So he came over and he and I and Jacob, my oldest son, and Joshua played Risk. 2 hours at this great big table that you see in here. We're all spread out. Willie did not win. I won't tell you who won. But I was taking Willie, he ate lunch with us. And I was taking him home afterwards. Just played Risk, ate lunch together. Didn't share the gospel with him that day. Didn't, he wasn't in my office. We're riding home to his house, and Willie looks at me and he says, and Willie's a proud kid. And Willie looked at me and he said, I just want to say thanks to you. I said, well, you're welcome, Will. Sure, And he goes, no. He said, I bought this game 4 months ago so that my family could play together. And I always ask my family to play, but they won't ever play with me. And my dad doesn't ever play games with us. And it's just nice to be in a house where you guys play with one another. So thanks for letting me play with you. And then we started talking about something else. But when I thought to myself, I went, gosh, having a kid over to my house and playing Risk with me is joy. Guys, you're missionaries. You're all missionaries. And where you are right now in your life, whatever you're doing, you have a big job to do. I don't know what that is for you. But I can tell you this. You have to start with understanding that you're a missionary and that you are going to be good at it or bad at it. But you're always going to be a missionary here to know Jesus. I want you to understand that being a good missionary means loving Jesus and loving people and being ready. And I want you to understand that you have tools. You have some tools that no one else has. George Robertson said in our lecture yesterday morning, he said, sometimes we despise our gifts. And what he meant by that, explain, was sometimes we look at our gift and we think, that can't be special. If I can do it, anybody else must be able to do it, so it can't be special. You guys have tools. You guys have stuff in your bag that I don't have in mine. And do you know why? Because your dad got your bag. And he's prepared the work, the job in advance that you're going to do in this world. And because of that, we don't have to be afraid. But we do have to remember the missions. Pray for us, okay? Lord, thank you that you love us, that you would love us while we were still sinners, that you would choose, knowing our junk, knowing our hearts, that you would choose to die for us, to express your love. Thank you, God, that you've chosen to call us children, that you haven't chosen to call us enemies anymore. We thank you that you've made us a royal priesthood, and that we're built to do the job, God. We're built to declare your praises in this world. We recognize together that you've made us missionaries. You've made us, you identified us as your children. You've made us people who constantly speak about you. God, you equip us to do it. You go before us and you declare the work that we're called to. So I pray that you would be with us today, that you would give us the confidence to live, not as cowards, not in rebellion against our identity. But God, these young people, these grown people, myself, that we would embrace this identity and these opportunities that you prepare for us, God, that we would look at them and walk into them with excitement, knowing that you prepared us, knowing that you'll meet us there, and that you love us, Father. Thank you for that. Thank you for this group. I ask that you would be with them and help them